I have never asked you for anything. Well, this once I am. I will not go on without her. Do you hear me? You owe me. Today on the Comic Book Report, Silver Surfer, the Slott Allred Omnibus. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from the Spaceways, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're back in the world of my favorite cosmic character, the Silver Surfer. This omnibus is the 2023 reprint of this Dan Slott, Michael Allred Silver Surfer run. And finishing this book was the first time I've made it through this complete series, and I can't wait to talk about it today. But first, if you're interested in getting your own copy or other collected comic editions, please check out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use my code, TheComicBookReport at checkout to get $2 off of your order today. If you order with my affiliate code or links, I will earn a small commission, but it's a great way to support the channel at no additional cost to you. Thank you for considering. Now on with the show. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Dan Slott and illustrated by Michael Allred, with coloring by Laura Allred. The issues in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2014. The volume itself collects Silver Surfer, the 2014 series, issues 1 through 15, Silver Surfer, the 2016 series, issues 1 through 14, and material from all new Marvel Now .1, issue 1. And finally, this oversized hardcover comes in at 688 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of this collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that Silver Surfer by Dan Slott and Mike Allred Omnibus. I will say that I did get the standard edition cover for this release. There is a direct market variant cover for this omnibus. I'll show you a quick reference so you can compare. But at any rate, I went the standard route because I think that this cover is just outstanding. I love it, and it captures everything that is amazing about this run, in my opinion. And in case you haven't noticed, this entire cover is a wraparound, this entire dust jacket, I should say rather, and under the dust jacket, it's actually going to be this same design. So there are some that are getting the direct market cover that will have the benefit of this image on the actual hardback book themselves. So that's something to consider as well. We'll look at under the dust jacket art shortly. Absolutely just incredible. I know one thing too, if you've never read a book from the Allreds, Mike Allred has such a distinct visual style. I love that kind of over-animated, cartoony look, the hard outlines, and of course the incredible color work from Laura Allred. This is just an art piece, probably first and foremost. I know I am captivated by his art style. If there's a good Mike Allred book out there, I will try to seek it out to sample it if I can, but it is a very polarizing artistic style, so that's definitely something to be mindful of when you look at this omnibus. And now that we've finished our look at the dust jacket, I will show you the under the dust jacket hardback artwork here. Again, it's a reproduction of what we see on this standard edition dust jacket, but with no text or anything, so you just get the full image here. Just look at that wraparound art, absolutely stunning. When I heard that they were reprinting this omnibus this year, I knew this would be a pre-order for me just because I am an Allred fan and I'm a Silver Surfer fan. And now that I've read it, I am so happy I did order this one. And before we start making our way through the collection proper, I did just want to spend a moment taking a look at the binding. It is a nice sewn binding. I think for the most part, I had no problems with how this thing was made. I will say there's a couple of pages that there is some pretty good gutter loss, so some of the images were not as striking as I know they are meant to be laid out perfectly flat. But other than that, couldn't be happier with this edition and how the format and everything is laid out. Just gorgeous. And now that we've covered the exteriors, let's make our way into the book proper. Right away, I'll just say I love the oversized glossy print paper stock, absolutely stunning, and I think it really captures the Allred artwork fantastically. All the images just pop right out of the page, and there's always something going on with all this artwork. It's very busy, it's very loud, it's very pop, and I just love it. It's absolutely striking. So, for longtime fans of the channel here, you might remember I actually reviewed the volume 1 of this Silver Surfer run in paperback a few months back. I think that contained the first 5 or 6 issues of this series, and overall I had it just above middle of the road, mostly for the Allred artwork, and primarily because I was a little taken aback at the different depiction of the Silver Surfer we are treated to during this run. That being said, there was still enough going for it that I had to upgrade to an omnibus when I heard that it was coming out. I knew I wanted to finish this run. I had heard enough great things about where this run goes that I wanted to finish it for myself. And again, that artwork, I just find it spellbinding and it absolutely won me over. I did want to first spend a couple moments talking about the differences this run has compared to other Silver Surfer runs you might be familiar with. In all of the Silver Surfer's history that I've read up until this point, I have always seen Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, depicted as this deeply philosophical, brooding kind of figure. It's always these deeper philosophical tones, themes, moves, and it's kind of a, if not darker character, it's certainly more serious, it's more level, more evocative. It makes you want to internalize and reflect and contemplate some of life's biggest questions. Well, in comes Dan Slott's Silver Surfer run, and while it is provoking and does make you ask a lot of existential questions in its own way, this is a much, much lighter Silver Surfer. The tone is almost humorous and playful at times. It's definitely a breath of fresh air, and I think the artwork captures it perfectly. That's not to say there's not moments of dramatic tension, tragedy, conflict, but it's done with a much lighter touch. I will say as well, this entire Silver Surfer run is really first and foremost a love story between Silver Surfer and the character of his companion, Dawn Greenwood. The two start as virtual strangers as she wishes upon a falling star as a child. We know that falling star is actually the Silver Surfer. Fast forward several years until she's in her adulthood, and she is essentially abducted into kind of an interplanetary area where she's being held captive. The Silver Surfer has to sort of save her. Their justification is that this is the woman he most profoundly cares for, or something like that. He's shocked to see that he doesn't recognize her at all. He has no relationship with this woman whatsoever. They kind of have to save the day, they have to save eternity, they have to save the universe, and after all of that, that's actually the beginning of their adventures. He gets her home to Earth, they have some adventures there at her hometown in this little inn at this seaside kind of city, and, we get appearances by like Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange and the Hulk in these early few issues, before Dawn actually ends up deciding to travel with the Surfer. She's been this hometown girl. She is one of a set of identical twins here. Her dad, she helps him run this inn, this kind of bed and breakfast in this little town. Her sister's always been the adventurous one, and she's always stayed behind with her single dad, trying to help him out. But now it's her time to experience the world and beyond, into the stars, into the universe. And from there, the rest of the series takes place with Silver Surfer essentially showing Dawn Greenwood the expanses of space, going into new regions that even he hasn't explored, and encountering the entire universe with her by his side. And while there is this nice friendship in the beginning, it slowly develops into something more, and eventually it becomes a full-blown love story. One of the things about this run I also enjoyed is that, for the most part, there's a truly episodic nature to a lot of the run, which means you can kind of dive into a single issue, enjoy it, digest the story, and just enjoy the ride without needing to necessarily binge read the entire run. It's not exactly cliffhangy for the most part. You can read it, set it down, pick it up again, and just slowly digest this incredible book. Now, that's not what I did. I found myself having trouble putting this down, and I basically read it cover to cover. And it reads like that perfectly well. I will say, as you progress further and further into the series, especially the last maybe quarter of this book, maybe the last third, the narrative does start to funnel into a resolution, and we do see characters or ideas that pop up that kind of foreshadow an ending to this series, to this relationship that you're kind of guessing at, you're trying trying to figure out what's going to happen. You're going to try to see how they close the loop with the whole storyline. And I think overall, Dan Slott and the Allreds landed the plane successfully. I feel like you can read this entire run as a self-contained Silver Surfer epic and just kind of go about your day. Yes, you can read previous or after the fact runs and still thoroughly enjoyed this, but you can actually pick up this single volume and just read this as a self-contained narrative. I would not say that there's a ton of prerequisite reading required. I do think it would help to know the Silver Surfer's backstory as the Herald of Galactus, some of his history with the Fantastic Four and the Marvel Universe, but beyond that, there really is no necessary knowledge, and even that is covered here for those that maybe don't have a functional understanding of the Silver Surfer. And I really like that. The way that this is so easily accessible for new readers makes it a perfect entry point for our favorite Sentinel of the Spaceways. And really quick, while we have a moment, if you're enjoying this review and you enjoy other comic book related miscellany and reviews, please consider subscribing to my channel, The Comic Book Report. And while you're there, if you can hit that bell notification icon, you can be notified every time I drop content. Thank you for considering. Now let's continue our review of the Silver Surfer Omnibus. So something else about the story structure in this omnibus that I should mention. It's again very episodic, but one of the things it focuses on are a lot of just interesting planets, cultures, inhabitants, and different areas throughout the universe. And for the most part, I think Dan Slott just invented all of them. There's not a ton that lean on previously established Silver Surfer mythos. Yes, we have some throughout this book, but there's a lot of just brand new concepts here and brand new cultures and ideas and pockets of space and alien races that it's just really fun. And I'm not going to say they're trivial, but it almost reminds me of some of the old school Star Trek kind of episodes where they'd go in, experience a new culture, a new setting, meet people, right or wrong, or kind of solve some kind of adventure, and then the next issue, they're just on their way. And I really loved that. There's a level of wonder, a level of majesty, and a level of just playfulness and joy in the exploration throughout this title. So I think fans of science fiction that like storytelling like that, this book might really be up your alley. That's not to say there aren't a ton of Marvel Universe tie-ins. We have several appearances of Galactus, things with Eternity. We have a kind of tie-in around Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars era. So there's a lot there that's really fun about the nature of reality and existence and what these two characters are doing during the Secret Wars event. We have some fun adventures with a lot of the Marvel heroes. We get to see Fantastic Four. We get to see Spider-Man. We get to see Captain America. We get to see so many of these staple characters pop up throughout this omnibus at different times. But again, it primarily focuses on the relationship between the Silver Surfer and Dawn Greenwood. Another really fun character we get to see in this volume that I don't think has been explored like this in the history of this character, to my knowledge, is the actual Silver Surfer's board itself. At one point early in the series, Dawn actually names the board Toomie, Toomie, because she misunderstands the way that Silver Surfer commands his board. To me, my board. She thinks of it as Toomie, like it's a name. And so for the rest of the series, they call the board Toomie, and they give it really a lot of personality. They deal with the reflective, silvery, mirrored surface of the board, and we actually get to see it animate the expression of whatever it mirrors. So we see like Dawn reflected, and she'll be angry, or she'll be ecstatic, or she'll be kind of nonplussed, or whatever. And the reflection won't actually mirror what Dawn's doing. It'll be a mirrored reflection of what the board is feeling or thinking. And I really like that, the way that they further kind of anthropomorphize this object into a whole other character that's on their adventures with them. Yes, we know it's kind of part of the Silver Surfer and the Power Cosmic, but it feels almost like a trio at times in this adventure, and I really loved that. It was a really special touch, and it again served that kind of playful tone which Dawn really brings to the Silver Surfer. And I think that that's why ultimately I really buy it as this is still the Silver Surfer, because it's the idea that Dawn's influence is what's bringing this out of Silver Surfer's character. Not that he's completely humorless, but because she adds this playfulness and wonder and love and compassion to his world. And it does it in such a way that it really begins to influence and change him. There's also a dynamic where he can actually turn the Power Cosmic off, and he calls it silvering down. Or rather, I think Dawn suggested it's silvering down. So we actually get to see Norin Rad appear. And again, this idea of him kind of finding more humanity is a really fun thing they do in this as well. We get to see their love story deepen and grow. One particular aspect of this comic I thought was also really well done is within all the playfulness toward the beginning of these stories, we actually have her finding out about his past as the Herald of Galactus, the Destroyer of Worlds, and it's really heartbreaking. They kind of have sort of a mini breakup before they're ever together. She doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And yet they repair it, they work through it, they see how he's a new person and trying to kind of redeem himself and function out of this new place as something different than what he was as a herald. And from there, the relationship really finds its foundation, its footing, and really begins to grow. And frankly, I'm just a sucker for a good love story, you guys, and that's what we find here. It's sweet, it's beautiful, it's moving, and the last issue or two of the series had me tearing up unashamedly. It's really beautiful, and I love the way the series culminates. There is some tragedy here. There is some ways that this circumvents expectation, and we really get a nuanced look at the character of Silver Surfer, especially with how he handles the events of the last couple issues of this book. It is absolutely stellar, wonderful, and I thoroughly recommend it for the storytelling. Another thing that's kind of nice is that this whole book is maybe just shy of a full 30 issues plus extras, so it's on the lighter side of an omnibus, but we do get the entire run contained here, and it doesn't feel bloated, it doesn't feel overstuffed. It feels like every issue had a point, and even though it was episodic, it was like every little thing mattered, every little detail had a place. I don't feel like the voice or the idea ever got lost or muddled. Everything just felt super clear and crisp, and the narrative went on seamlessly. I was obviously captivated by the visuals here, but I think the fact that Dan Slott never seems to lose the narrative voice or the through line for the storytelling he's trying to present in this Silver Surfer saga makes this really a standout to me. I have always loved Silver Surfer since I found this character, and especially since I started reading this character. I think so far the Jim Starlin era of Silver Surfer might be some of my favorite ever written. It's some of my favorite Cosmic Marvel stuff. But this is really close in my mind, and I think that it is such a tonal shift, it is such a character shift in some ways, but it just works, and it's believable, and it's just wondrous. I think that there's so much fun here, and we don't always get to see a very playful side of the Cosmic Marvel universe. I suppose Guardians of the Galaxy is not without its humor, and there are obviously moments of interstellar fun in the Marvel comics, but this is maybe one of the most playful series from Marvel that I've ever read. That's not always a comedy comic, although there is moments of humor. It's just that the entire tone and feel of the book is light, playful, and fun. I think if you're someone or you know someone who's really not into some of the grit, the violence, the scares, maybe kind of explicit sort of comics, this is such a great easy read that's not going to be overly offensive to most, I think, and it's just really fun. It's really palatable, and it just goes down smooth. I think for many people, this could really be a comic book comfort read. I know certainly it's already on my list as one I could go to if I'm having a bad day, just to get cheered up or just to have some fun, escapist, just adventures. You could pick up an issue of this and just be so satisfied. And I love that quality to this work, and that's something I didn't expect. Even from reading the first volume, that volume has maybe two kind of self-contained stories, but it doesn't get into the full episodic nature, and it doesn't really explore everything this series really becomes. And so I think if you only read the first 5 or 6 issues of this series, you could easily miss the scope or feel of what Dan Slott and Mike Allred are really doing here. And I almost did. I'm so happy I invested in this omnibus, and I decided to give the entire run a read, as it's one I know I'm going to remember, and one I'm probably going to revisit often, even if it's only for an issue here or there. Another thing I mentioned a few moments ago, there are issues that occur around Marvel's Secret Wars, and there are touches that dabble in other Marvel things that happen during this time. But one of the things I like about this is it's not one of those series where there's going to be a random issue here that's a tie-in to this event, and it has nothing to do with the run as a whole. It's just trying to cash in on this tie-in event. That's not at all what this run does. Even the issue that kind of addresses the events of Secret Wars, it really is just Dan Slott and Mike Allred's own thing. It's really like, if I didn't know about Secret Wars, I might have even not connected it to what was happening with the rest of the Marvel Universe. This really does feel like its own pocket of storytelling, its own universe, and again, I think that that really makes this a seamless collection that you could come in and leave and enjoy it as kind of a one-shot adventure, and I think that that's going to make a lot of readers really happy. I know sometimes it's so easy to get bogged down or lost in years and decades of comic book continuity and where to start and where to go next, or how do I get into this character. And I think there's some people that might want just an easy on-ramp where they can enjoy it, get in, get out, and feel like they had a good taste for a character or a creator or a run. And I think that this omnibus will perfectly fit that bill. I think that this can be an easy one and done, or like myself, if you're already a pre-existing Silver Surfer fan or Cosmic Marvel fan, you can get a new lens by which to view this character, some of these worlds and settings, and I know for me, it definitely makes my outlook on this character a bit more nuanced than it was before. I think what we have here is something truly special. Going back again now to the artwork from the Allreds, I do think Mike Allred has a quality to his work where when you see one Mike Allred book, there's a level where you've kind of seen it all. And what I mean by that is that his style is so distinct that it really stands out. I would say similar things for Tim Sale's artwork, like with The Long Halloween. He has such a unique visual style that I can almost always tell if I'm looking at a Tim Sale comic. Same thing is true for Mike Allred, and while the kind of style will change a little bit or different things will happen in different runs, Mike Allred is a force of nature that has such a unique visual aesthetic, and that's definitely true with Silver Surfer. I could easily and instantaneously recognize it as Mike Allred's work, but I think what makes it set apart as something special for me is all that Mike Allred gets to do, exploring all of these interstellar locations, characters. I love seeing how he depicts different aliens and worlds and concepts and ideas. You know, it's one thing if we were reading a Marvel comic from Mike Allred that's maybe based in Earth or New York or kind of the same things you see every day. It's a whole other matter when you're in this kind of space where you could go anywhere in the universe, explore anything, do anything. And what do these things look like? How do you realize them? How do you conceptualize them? How do you make them something concrete and tangible that you could hold on to? And I think that the Allreds were both up to the task here because this is some of the most imaginative comic book art I've seen in some time. I think that that also really adds to the sense of playfulness, adventure, and just broad scope of what this run really accomplishes because we get to see visual realizations of truly alien and amazing things. And I love that. I think because of that, this is maybe some of my favorite work that Mike Allred's ever produced. It is so imaginative, so full of wonder, and I feel like I could dissect and go through this by panel and just get blown away by so much rich detail. Like I said, I mostly binge read this omnibus, but I'm so eager to revisit, not just for the narrative storytelling, but for the visual as well, because I know there's details I missed. I know there's little subtleties in Allred's work that I cannot wait to explore again and again. I mean, just look at this art. Absolutely stunning, instantly memorable, and again, it serves the narrative storytelling perfectly. I think what Slott and Allred did here really sets it apart for me. I loved my read through here, and I highly recommend this omnibus for those interested in the Silver Surfer or some of these creators. It is something unique to experience, and I think any description of it will not do it justice. It's something that I think arguably must be read and experienced by an individual to understand, again, exactly what I'm talking about here. And as we reach the stunning climax and resolution for this Silver Surfer arc, like I said, the last 2 issues or so are deeply moving and just so effective. After we finish that, we've completed the run and we get treated to a nice afterword by Dan Slott and Mike Allred. It's a really fun little 1-page read, but I'm so happy they included it. After that, we have a nice variant cover art gallery, which I love seeing some of the artists they tagged for this. We're also treated to a couple behind-the-scenes photos and a ton of sketch work for this omnibus. Again, as an art piece and fans of this work, I love seeing some of the sketches and the bonus material at the back end of this. I always love when omnibuses pad themselves out with some good extras here, and I think that while there could have been some more for this omnibus, there's still plenty that I was thoroughly satisfied here. And with that, that's The Silver Surfer by Dan Slott, Michael Allred, and Laura Allred Omnibus, and I think all that's left to do now is give it a grade. It should be no surprise to anyone who's heard me gushing about this for the last 20 minutes or so that the Comic Book Report is happy to give The Silver Surfer, Dan Slott, Michael, and Laura Allred Omnibus an A. The art in this entire collection is some of my favorite from Mike Allred, who is already a comic favorite of mine. I think the narrative never loses its voice or sense of wonder. I think the episodic nature to this make it a playful, fun science fiction series, and it's a really great one-and-done collection that's a perfect entry for anyone trying to get into comics. While I did have moments where I missed my deeply philosophical, stoic Silver Surfer, I loved the romantic angle that this whole run took, and I love what that taught me about one of my favorite Marvel characters. This was nearly a perfect comic book run in my opinion, and for me it definitely earns a must-read status, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Silver Surfer run. And until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like and comment. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.